Okay, let's talk about the IELTS speaking test. For so many people, it is hands down the most stressful 11 to 14 minutes of the entire exam. Today, we're going to break down how to prepare for it the right way. Because believe it or not, how you're practicing right now might be the very thing that's holding you back.
So here's the big question, right? It's not if you should practice. We all know you should. It's how. How in the world do you actually get ready for that super high-pressure test room environment when you're just studying by yourself?
Now, this might come as a bit of a shock, but it's true. The way most students are preparing for the speaking test, it can actually build the wrong habits, and that can end up lowering their score on test day. Let's dive into why that actually happens.
So, the main challenge is actually pretty simple. It is just incredibly difficult to copy the real official test environment when you're practicing alone. You don't have that examiner sitting across from you, and it's basically impossible to get objective, expert feedback on how you're really doing. And this brings us to a really crucial point. It's not just about practicing. It's about practicing the right way. You see, when you practice under the wrong conditions, you're not just wasting your time. You're actively building habits that are going to fail you when it really matters. Let's take a look at some of those common mistakes.
Does this list look familiar? Come on, be honest. When you practice, do you hit pause to look up a word, or ask a friend for a better phrase? Or maybe you just re-record your answer over and over till it's perfect? Each one of these is a safety net that I promise you will not exist in the real exam. For instance, say you use a dictionary to learn an amazing word like ubiquitous. It sounds great in practice, but on test day, you haven't trained your brain to remember it under pressure. So what happens? You stumble, you pause, and your fluency takes a nosedive. This is exactly how bad practice creates this false sense of confidence. It just doesn't train you to think on your feet. And yeah, this quote just hits the nail on the head. Every single time you practice with these little helpers, you're training your brain to depend on them. And then on test day, poof, they're gone. And it can be a real shock. The only way to get ready is to mirror the real test conditions as closely as you possibly can.
Okay, so how do you actually do that? How can you create a true test simulation? Well, the key is to use a tool that's designed to tackle this exact problem. And that's where a speaking assessment task comes in.
And we're not just talking about a few practice questions here. This is a complete end-to-end practice test with 23 real questions. It's designed to cover the entire scope and length of what you can expect in the actual IELTS speaking exam. And those 23 questions, they're structured to perfectly mirror the 3 parts of the real test. So you'll go through all the intro and interview questions in part 1, you'll tackle that individual long turn, the cue card, in part 2, and then you'll get into that more abstract discussion in part 3. This makes sure you're totally prepared for the flow and the pacing of the entire test. No surprises.
Now, here's the part that makes it a real simulation. The rules are strict. You listen to the question and you get exactly 1 shot to record your answer. No do-overs, none. And you have to do it without any help from notes, dictionaries, or your friends. Plus, you have to complete all 23 questions in order. This is how you build that mental muscle for test day.
But look, an accurate simulation is really only half the battle. How do you know what you're doing right? And probably more importantly, what you're doing wrong. That's where the incredible power of expert feedback comes into play. Let's just compare these 2 scenarios for a second. On the left, when you practice by yourself, you can record yourself, sure, but that's pretty much where it ends. Now look at the right. With the assessment task, you submit those 1-take recordings and you get 2 absolute game changers in return. Personal, detailed feedback from an experienced IELTS tutor, and you get to hear model answers for every single question. And the whole process is super straightforward. You submit your recordings, and within just 3 working days, a qualified tutor analyzes your entire performance, your fluency, your pronunciation, your grammar, your vocabulary, and gives you personalized feedback to help you get better. So how does this all come together to actually boost your score? Well, it creates a super direct and clear path from just practicing to making real, measurable progress. So, the key takeaways are this. By practicing under real test conditions, you get rid of those bad habits. By completing the full format, you build up your stamina and familiarity. By getting that tutor feedback, you know exactly what your weaknesses are. And by studying the model answers, you learn what a high-scoring response actually sounds like. It all combines to build genuine, earned confidence for test day.
Look, at the end of the day, the goal isn't just to practice, right? It's to perform when it matters most. So the real question is, are you preparing in a way that truly actually sets you up for success on test day?